Hello everyone, and welcome back to Secrets Behind the Stars. I'm thrilled you're here, because today we're diving into the kind of story that makes fans hit replay and whisper, "Did that really happen?" The theme is simple and electric. Our moment together was magical and unforgettable. And yes, we're talking about Gökberk and Cemre, those two names that lately seem to echo in the same sentence, as if fate has insisted they share the same breath. We're going to unpack what that magic felt like for them, how it showed up in real life, and how the very ingredients that turned their private memories into something unforgettable might be the reason the world can't stop watching. Before we get into it, if you love stories like this, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Your support keeps Secrets Behind the Stars shining and lets us keep bringing you the moments everyone else only whispers about. So what makes a moment magical and unforgettable in the world of Gökberk and Cemre? It wasn't a red carpet flash or a carefully staged post. It began quietly, in a place where spotlights don't reach. Picture this, a late shoot that stretched into the early morning, a narrow corridor lit by sleepy neon, and two people who weren't trying to impress anyone. He was exhausted, a script folded into soft corners in his pocket. She was peeling off a layer of makeup, laughing at something that wasn't even that funny. They weren't in character. They were just themselves. He held the door for her, she thanked him without looking up, and in that unremarkable instant they both paused, like their own lives had set them on the same station and told them, "Listen." That pause, that breath, was the start. Magic, for them, wasn't some grand, orchestrated display. It was connection. The kind that settles into your bones and makes words unnecessary. They found themselves speaking in glances on a cramped set, finishing each other's thoughts while production scrambled around them. He'd raise an eyebrow and she'd already know the joke. She'd clear her throat and he'd pass her water without her asking. It's the kind of rhythm you can't rehearse. That was the magic, being seen without having to perform. Being chosen without having to ask. That invisible string pulled taut between them in the busiest room, even when they kept their distance to keep the noise down. And what about unforgettable? Why did certain days with them feel like a film you can't stop replaying? Unforgettable came from emotional intensity and novelty, the shock of feeling brand new in places they had walked through 1,000 times. One evening, after a shoot wrapped earlier than expected, they slipped out through a side exit to avoid the buzz. The city air felt light, like a promise. He didn't have a plan, and she didn't need one. They wandered down to the water and let their conversation drift as the boats bobbed and hummed. No stylists, no handlers, no angles. Just the messy, alive feeling of two people falling out of the schedule and into each other. It wasn't perfect, that was the point. That night stayed with them because it wasn't curated. It was honest, and honesty has a way of clinging to memory like salt on skin. Let's break down the pieces that made their moments feel like that. First, full presence. In a world where phones are never off and eyes are always up for approval, they chose to be here, now, with each other. On a quiet morning, before the city yawned awake, she brewed coffee in a chipped mug and he leaned against the counter, listening not just to her words but to the pauses between them. He set his phone face down in another room. She set her camera aside. They paid attention to details like a secret language, the way he fidgeted with a ring when he was worried, the way she smoothed her sleeve when she was thinking too fast. With both of them fully present, even a shared bite of simmet on a stairwell felt sacred, elevated by focus. Presence turned ordinary scenes into milestones. Second, shared vulnerability. The glittering image they wear in public is heavy, and they both knew it. One night after a long day, he confessed he feared slipping behind, missing a beat, disappointing people who believed in his momentum. He said it quickly, like he was afraid the words might stick to the air. She didn't rush to reassure him. She told him about the way online scrutiny sometimes made her doubt her own instincts, how the kindness and the cruelty blended into a static that could drown out her real voice. They sat with each other's truth, in a hallway where the lights buzzed and the floor felt cold, and they held eye contact longer than comfort usually allows. No fixes, no quick advice, just the steady acceptance of, "I'm here." Later, she slipped a note into the inside pocket of his jacket before an audition, nothing epic, Just a line that said, "You are not your fear." He found it with his hand trembling. He kept it. Vulnerability didn't make them weaker, it gave them a bridge. Third, novelty and surprise. The brain can't help but etch firsts into a brighter page. One rainy afternoon when city plans went sideways, she surprised him by renting a tiny projector for the apartment wall. She queued up their first audition tapes, awkward, earnest, hilarious, and they watched the versions of themselves who still thought they had to try so hard to be worth it. They roasted those past selves until they were breathless with laughter, and then fell quiet at how far they'd come, side by side and yet individually. Another day, he whisked her away after a table read without revealing where they were going. They rode the ferry with their hoods up and hands tucked between layers to keep warm. The destination wasn't a big reveal. It was just a small cafe near the pier where the honey dripped slowly and time had the courtesy to wait. It was simple, unexpected, and somehow perfect. Novelty doesn't have to be loud, it just needs to tilt the day on its axis. Fourth, shared emotion. The feelings they lived were amplified because they leaned into them together. When her grandmother finally met him at a family lunch, Cemre tried to stay composed, but tears found her anyway. He squeezed her hand under the table and smiled with his whole face in a way cameras never capture. Later, in a quiet car ride, they drove without music until laughter broke like sunlight because they both remembered the same small, ridiculous detail from the afternoon. They shared a win with equal joy, a call confirming a project she'd fought for, an email celebrating a role he almost didn't accept, and they shared the blows too. On the day a headline got something all wrong, he paced and she paced with him, until they collapsed into a corner of the living room floor and let the frustration drain like a storm passing through. Feeling it together made every feeling bigger, but also safer to handle. Fifth, intention. The moments didn't happen by accident. They planted them. They carved out Sundays as an invisible circle on the calendar, offline unless family called, no plans unless the plan was B. She kept a stack of Polaroids and refused to chase the perfect shot, snapping instead the in-between frames. His messy haircut day, her misbuttoned cardigan, a crooked slice of cake on a paper plate. He made playlists that had no theme except us and left them playing while they cooked. Sometimes the intention was a small ritual. They would start the morning by naming one thing they were grateful for in the other. Sometimes it was deliberate effort. He arranged a surprise dinner at a tiny place that only sat 8, where the chef talked softly about tomatoes as if they were memories, not fruit. Intention was the promise beneath everything, not to perform their closeness, but to build it on purpose. Now, maybe you're thinking, sure, they can make magic, they're stars. But the truth is, their lives are as routine as anyone's when the curtain falls. There are call times that arrive like alarms, lines to learn, meals eaten standing up under a buzzing light. There are managers and meetings and calendars that don't care about romance. So they learn to sneak wonder into the cracks. They tried new coffee on the way to set, picking a corner shop they'd never noticed even though they'd driven past it for years. They took a different route home just to see how the city changes when you let it. He asked her to teach him a recipe he'd never tried, and they burned the pan and laughed until the kitchen smelled like effort and forgiveness. They watched a movie they'd both seen 100 times but tried to predict each other's favorite line, and they were both wrong, which made it even better. Sometimes, novelty was as small as a walk without a destination. Sometimes, full presence meant sitting side by side and reading in silence, then sharing a paragraph that stuck. Shared emotion came from a stupid song on the radio that suddenly mattered because they sang it at the top of their lungs and missed half the notes. Intention was in the way they said goodnight, even when they were tired, even when the day had been unkind. And here's where I hand the mic to you. Which moment between Gökberk Yildirim and Cemre Arda felt truly magical and unforgettable to you? Was it the quiet ferry ride, the first laugh caught off guard, the way they chose honesty over image when it counted? Or is it a story you hold from your own life that echoes theirs, a moment that seemed small until you realized it changed everything? Tell me in the comments. Your stories don't just fill a section under this video, they connect us. They remind us that magic doesn't belong to a title or a brand. It belongs to the brave act of paying attention. So let's tie it all together. We've seen that the moments that endure aren't accidents. Presence turned a corridor into a memory. Vulnerability turned a hallway confession into a promise. Novelty took a rained-out plan and gave it a heartbeat. Shared emotion magnified joy and softened the impact of pain. Intention built a quiet home for all of it to return to. That's how a couple like Gökberk Yildirim and Cemre Arda end up with memories that feel ineffable and yet so real you could touch them, not by chasing spectacle, but by choosing each other in the tiniest ways, again and again. If this journey through their story made you feel something, if it made you think of your person, or the person you hope to find, or even the part of yourself that wants to be present, vulnerable, adventurous, open, and deliberate, then take that feeling and do something with it. Look around your life for the small scenes that want to be remembered. Put the phone down for one coffee. Share something true without rushing to be fixed. Take a turn you've never taken. Laugh in sync. Decide that today, you will mean it. Thank you for spending this time with me on Secrets Behind the Stars. Your views, your likes, your comments, your company, they matter. If this story resonated, tap like, share it with someone who needs a gentle nudge toward their own magic, and if you haven't already, subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars so we can keep bringing you close to the moments that make the spotlight feel human. I'll be back with more stories that peel away the glitter to show you the heartbeat underneath. Until the next video, remember, the magic lives in the moments we choose to create and share. Until next time. M.